Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Spin It Social Hour. My name is Stefan Kaplan, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here with everyone today. Wow, show number 36. Here we are on another Saturday morning, and I thank you for being here with us. The Spin It Social Hour is a labor of love born out of care and concern for our photo community. When this pandemic hit, I decided that I was going to reach out and I was going to try to help the photo community with everything I had in my repertoire of skills. And I was going to put everything together to try to get their name out there more, to try to get their work out there more, so that this way everyone knows more about them and they can get more work as we hope to get this pandemic under control sooner rather than later. This has been a long, hard road for everyone. That's why I'm incredibly appreciative of everybody being here on Saturday morning to listen to these photographers' stories, because that's what it's truly about them telling their stories and showing their work. So once again, my name is Stefan Kaplan. This is the Spin It Social Hour. I am a social media and visual strategist that has worked with the likes of the Pulitzer Prizes, AARP, Encore.org. I am also an adjunct professor at FIT, and I am a former photo editor at the New York Times for over 15 years. But today we are here to welcome a great photographer from Boston who I was introduced to by a previous guest and friend, Rick Friedman. And it is a real delight to bring her on. Her body of work is really great. She's traveled extensively. And she's Boston-based now, originally from Tokyo. And, it is just wonderful to have Keiko on. So we're going to give her the build-up that she deserves. Photography always lets me explore a new world. It introduces me to someone I have not yet met and a life I have not yet known, says Keiko Hiromi, a Japanese photographer based in Boston and Tokyo. It helps me realize more about myself as a person, allowing me to learn and understand what it means to be a photographer. Keiko's work has appeared in El País, Der Spiegel, Vanity Fair, the Boston Globe, and the New York Times. She is also a regular contributor to The Dig, a free alt-media newspaper in Boston. Keiko's career began in 2006, a year after she graduated from school, when she was selected for the 12th annual juried show at the Griffin Museum of Photography for her series, Monadnock Street, a record of daily life on the street where she lives. Her other projects include documenting the performers at Jacques Cabaret, the 90-year-old drag queen nightclub in Boston, and Hibakusha, a record of the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 70 years after the bombings. To photograph a community or people is a very intimate process for me, Keiko says. If I want my subjects to accept me, I accept them first. If I want them to open up to me, I open up to them. Folks, it is with great pleasure that I bring on Keiko Hiromi. Hello, Keiko.
Hi, Stefan. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, please. It is my absolute pleasure. Wow. Look at that beautiful, beautiful blue light behind you.
Thank you. That's my light one that I borrowed from Rick Friedman, your previous guest and my good friend.
Wow, it is delightful to see on a Saturday morning. Anthony Falsarella is here. Excuse me, Anthony. Tim Sohn is here from Pennsylvania. Deborah Kerr is here from Fort Lauderdale. Claudia Paul is here from Harlem. Bob Veritoni from New Jersey. And on and on and on. So, wow, we have a full house already, Keiko. Everybody's ready for you.
Good morning.
How is it? First question is, how are you doing? How's everything going on with the pandemic? Are you fine? How's your family? And how is everything in Boston?
Everything, I'm okay. We are very slow with photography business, as you could imagine, with pandemic. Yeah. But people in my community are healthy for now. And my family, I'm from Japan. My family are doing okay. My parents own kindergarten, so they're actually in school in person.
Wow.
And yep, it's concerning as my parents are getting older and teachers are working, but we manage it day by day.
Right. That is a big concern. I mean, being a teacher is being on the front lines these days.
Yeah.
So because, kids are, unfortunately, they're little germ spreaders, we know that
They
for a fact.
are adorable, though. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I have a son, and it's the facts. So anyway, it's good to hear that everybody's okay. That's always should be the first question. Rick Friedman, good morning, Keiko.
Good morning, Rick.
Hey, Rick grabbed his coffee and he's with us. As you know, you popped on to surprise him a couple of weeks ago. So that was fun. And everything. But, I'm really glad that Rick introduced us because I looked over your work after he introduced us and I was like, wow, I need to have Keiko on the show. So why don't you begin by telling us, so you're originally from Tokyo. How did you end up in Boston? And how did you get started in photography?
So I came to Boston 1998 for university. So I was one of those international students in Boston. And then before that, I actually never even touched a camera. I mean, I had no interest in photography. And I like looking at them, but that was where my interest ended. And one of my college roommates was a high school photographer. So she decorated our apartment with all her black and white photographs from Rome because she went to high school in Rome, Italy. So it was just beautiful. Then my second year of university, I decided to take a photography class because of her influence. And I just fell in love with looking at the world through viewfinder. I just love that. Yeah.
True. So when you first got started, one of the things that I'm going to quickly get into it because we have a big body of work to show here is the thing that captured me about you is you like working on a lot of projects.
I like people. I like photography. Like I said, I love looking at the world through my viewfinder. I feel like I met people, then I meet people, then I learn about people through photography. Like that. As you looked at a lot of I feel like when I meet people, it's like, can I photograph you? I want to learn about you. Can I photograph you? That's that's me.
Sure. No, well, you really enjoy, getting into subjects and everything. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you recall what the very first real project is that you worked on?
And my first considered personal project was my street, Monadnock Street. That's what I consider to be. I photographed some during my college times, but I love photographing people at that time too. But really, my personal first project I consider is Monadnock Street.
Right. Well, we're going to show a nice selection of that. And, I'm going to let you talk about them. I'm going to let you tell everybody about your experience into moving into the neighborhood there and becoming part of it. So why don't we go through some of these great slides here and why don't we talk about them?
So Monadnock Street is where I live. Boston has a different neighborhoods, just like New York boroughs. And this is in Dorchester neighborhood of Boston. I previously had lived in different neighborhoods and it's most like a students and young professional would live. And this is I used to photograph boxing gym during my photo school years, not too far from here. And then every time I go to Dorchester neighborhood of Boston, I just felt like people are more real. Then I just started to getting really interested in Dorchester. It's not like the people are friendly or, they would chat with you more or anything. It's just that when you see people older people get into the bus, somebody would just get up. And just give them they don't even have to say please take a seat or anything. They just get up. Or somebody who's carrying a heavy grocery bag to train the bus, somebody will help them carry it. They don't even have to exchange word. But I just felt more real than I was really interested in. So right before I graduated from photo school, I had opportunity to move into a beautiful Victorian house actually in Dorchester where a community activist I met through a nonprofit there in the neighborhood live. So I moved into the neighborhood and then that was Monadnock Street. Then I would walk down. Monadnock Street is about half a mile long street. It's not long. Then there's the one way to go towards more convenience store, supermarket, bus stop, which I took bus everywhere when I first moved. I didn't have a car. So I would meet people. And then can we go back to the first picture?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My pleasure.
So this is where we call rock.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first two gentlemen who's giving a haircut and getting a haircut are sitting on the rock. This is one of the house, and it's actually a little bit upside driveway, and there's a bench, and there's a big nice tree that gives us a shade in summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And people just, all the people who live on the street would walk down the street to get places once a day or whenever we need to get to, including myself. And we would just meet at the rock.
Right.
I could, like, on Sunday morning, like, people would drive by after the church, then somebody would be there. There's many moments I would just go down to the rock and wait for somebody to show up. Then we start chatting. We have some beer sometimes and things like that. But this is our rock. I started. Go ahead.
No. Please continue. Continue.
So I moved into the house on Monadnock Street, and I didn't know I was going to photograph the street because I was interested in the neighborhood, but I didn't much know about Monadnock Street per se. But I walk around with camera, and one day I walked by the rock, going to my bus stop with my camera, and then my first friend Benny on the street, he was sitting down at the rock by himself with his cat Toby, and I took his picture with his cat.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a film. So I printed the darkroom 8x10 prints on the RC paper. Then I brought him a picture to, give it to Benny. Then that's how I got to know people. And I'm sure they took me with curiosity. I was probably the first Japanese woman who lived on the street with camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I met people through rock. That's how then I really fall in love with people and neighborhood on Monadnock Street. That's how I got my Monadnock Street started.
Right. I mean, that's the fascinating thing because, you're coming into a new neighborhood, new to Boston and everything, new to the States in many ways too, and assimilating into the neighborhood and the culture and everything else. It must have been very intriguing,
It was, in a way that, this is my first time I actually lived in more family-oriented neighborhood.
Right.
Because I lived in student area, then I lived in more young professionals who would be most likely single or young family, or, no extended family member. And, I grew up in suburb of Japan, but my mother was from rural area. So she would talk about her story, how she grown up with, like how she knew everybody in the neighborhood. All the people would, like her father would know all the men or women, would know the neighborhood. My grandmother would go to market every morning. They know all the people who sell and buy it. And then it's a little bit different, but I felt like that was Monadnock Street for me. Then then I'm only child. So like, this is the first time I get to see a little kids growing up on the street and get to know somebody's lives like this way.
Right. No, well, that is the beautiful thing about life, right? You move somewhere, you travel somewhere, wherever you go, people always need to remember people are human. Everybody, we all, and it's wonderful for someone to come in my opinion, from a very different culture and to take on a new culture and to document it. I think that it's really great because there's new perspective. Wow, we have a hello, Brigetti from Cape Town, South Africa.
Hello.
How wonderful. Greetings, a fellow live streamer. So it is, it's always interesting for me to see new, photographers do new work like that. So let me let you continue on. And obviously you've taken on much of the socialization the same way your mom is very social. You're incredibly social. I see that, and so let's move on. So talk to us about some of the children that gravitated to you and that you really got to know.
That's Anthony and Patrick that sitting at my neighbor's kitchen floor actually. And Anthony was actually a friend of my house owner who's a community activist. That's how I got to know Patrick and Anthony. They're brothers from California. They're staying somewhere with their relative's house.
Oh, okay.
And it was just a tender moment of playing and, brothers dynamic and kids and how they
you can tell the comfort level of them with you, you know, I mean, and a beautiful big dog. My God, that looks like a Saint Bernard.
It's a Saint Bernard.
It
His
is.
name
Yeah,
is,
I know my dogs.
yeah. Marble is the name of the dog.
Edward Leskin, who's a big viewer of the show, because we always make sure we engage and interact with our viewers here. It is a live stream, and we are in social media. So StreamYard here, the platform I stream on, is the platform of choice and great to do this on. Edward says the salon photo is one of his favorites. Can you put that comment back up on the screen, Jonathan, so we could read that for Keiko? That image in the salon is incredible. The off-center composition, multiple subjects. We get a real sense of being there, and the choice of black and white speaks for itself. Perfect editorial choice, beautifully creative, says Edward.
Thank you. One of the technical challenge on this photograph was not to have myself in the mirror, actually.
Of course.
Yeah, but it was. I was so excited to get to know people, get to know neighborhood. I was just psyched to taking every frame. So I remember.
No, it's wonderful. I'm particularly fond of this photo. I just love catching people walking down the street playing instruments sometimes. This is a very, very beautiful photo. It's a very nice moment.
Thank you. His name is Oliver. This is actually across from my bus stop. I probably was waiting for the bus maybe, and then I just saw him walking by the guitar, and then you don't really. This is not Monadnock Street. This is like Main Street near Monadnock Street.
Okay.
Like bus lines and stuff. So on Monadnock Street, you see people sometimes with instrument, but not too much on the mainstream. Like especially him walking by himself like that.
Right.
So I said hello to him, and then I said, I'm a photographer from Japanese photographer who lived down the street. Can I take a picture with your guitar? Mm-hmm. Then he started showing me. So that's when I took a picture.
No, it's so wonderful the way you were the way you documented the neighborhood, and you know, I mean, the kids on the street, you know, talking, doing their thing on the street, and just the comfort level, as anybody knows. I mean, that's in photojournalism and beyond. It's getting to know your subjects and really, really having that comfort level. You definitely established that in the neighborhood. How long have you been there now?
I'm still living in this house, and you actually see the fence. That's actually my house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I always feel that if the time allows, and if you have a luxury of doing that, is that if you wanted to know them, let them know you, because it's always the two ways, you know. Then right. Sometimes, of course, when you're on assignment and stuff like that, you don't have the time of luxury to do that. But let them know you as much as you want to know them, I think.
Right. No, absolutely. And, you know, the thing I wanted to ask you is that, so now that you've established yourself for such a long time now in the neighborhood, I mean, you're obviously more than a photographer to everybody now. You're like family to them probably, right?
I would like to call myself a good friend and neighbor.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So, so then, you know, obviously, like I said, I mean, there's such a comfort level here. I mean, you know, you're photographing the kids on the street, you're photographing the kids tell us about this photo here. This is
Patrick, the older boy with the dog, and that's his friend, Anthony. This is actually inside of my Victorian mansion that I moved into. Patrick used to live here, and I think he needed to live. He lived in Boston for a short brief time with his relatives, and he was showing me his house, and we find old, looks like a guitar case there, and I just thought the light was beautiful, and then idea of exploring a house was just fascinating. Yeah, no, well, I mean, you know, getting to know children, number one, there's that children will immerse themselves in whatever they're doing, but it's great the way you've been able to capture these things, you know, in very intimate moments like this, you know, where obviously he found that guitar case. It probably has some memories. And other things, and you could tell it's an old house. I mean, it's been there for probably, who knows? Do you know how long it's been there? Yes, the house was built 1880. Wow!
And,
it was It's a beautiful house with like a whole, like we have on the first floor, we have a grand staircase, like really grand staircase, two parlors, one piano room and one study and a kitchen.
Wow, what a beautiful house.
It is a beautiful house. And then it was restored by a gentleman named Bob Haas, who is a community activist there. And then he takes people who are interested in neighborhood or works in the neighborhood as a tenant. So I was interested in neighborhood. I fit the category.
Well, you definitely fit, and it's been a good fit all around for the neighborhood, yes. for you documenting the neighborhood. They're lucky to have you, and it's been a wonderful thing. But, I found this photo, and I wanted to show it because, it really is a great story. So I'm just going to let you talk about it.
So I used to be the tallest of three. Yeah, and now no more.
Oh, that's how long you've been there for.
I have been there. I think people got married. I photographed his birthday party maybe or prom night or something. And I've been there longest.
Well, in years to come, the neighborhood, the families, and everybody else are going to be very appreciative, and I'm sure they are already, of the beauty that you've captured of that. Nancy Lewis says, yes, the way the light bounces up has me feel as though the memories are in the light in that previous photo she's talking about in the attic. That's a wonderful way to describe it, Nancy. Thank you. And Edward says, what did Edward say? We can put that back up on the screen. What an amazing use of light, emotion, and subject. Really incredible. And how we can see the children staring in wonder. Beautiful, rich tones and contrast. You've got a big fan already. Another new fan, right here in Edward. So, but like I said, this photo, it's wonderful that, you've been in the neighborhood, and I'm sure in years to come, and now they appreciate you so much. So I'm glad I found that photo to be able to show it. But let's move on here, Keiko, and I'm going to allow you to talk about the sense of discovery, even for photographers, when it's not meant to be sometimes. Go ahead, roll with it.
So this is a MIT ballroom dance team during the regional Harvard competition for the ballroom dancer. I think most of them are graduate students. And this is a film double exposure image. Mm-hmm. And I double exposed the image by mistake. That was my first time I shot film with the Monadnock too, but this is a new camera for me. Then that was the first rewinding with thumb thing. Okay. I must have messed up somewhere. So when I developed the films from the competition, I had maybe like one rolls or maybe two that they were looking odd, to say the least. And turned out I had been double exposed in the films. I hated myself at the beginning because I like to have a control over what I captured. And you click it when you want to capture the moment. Sure. And it messed it up. Well, but it turned out I love it visually, so I decided to go with it.
Absolutely. I'm going to let you talk about a couple of more here, and I'm going to put them full frame for everybody. This is just gorgeous. I mean, I absolutely love the way, the people are in the background there in the double exposure and their motion and everything. It's just beautiful. It's so elegant. It's ballroom dancing. Tell us a little about ballroom dancing. It really captivated you, didn't it?
It did. I was walking on MIT campus one day, and then I just came across them practicing the ballroom dancing. And like I said, I get to know people through photography or taking picture of them. So I kind of backtracked my foot afterward and went back to the practice saying, I'm a photographer. Can I take you a picture of your practicing ballroom dancing? Because I find it fascinating. Then they looked at each other. They said, okay, that's fine. So I photographed them a couple of times on practice. Then one of the ladies told me that we are going to the competition at Harvard up the street. If you wanted to come, you can come. So I said, great. So I yet again invite myself to go and I photographed that. But I just love how the ballroom dancer moves. And I have to say, I'm not so graceful on the dance floor, but I love watching the quick stepping. It's one of my favorite things to watch. Before I die, I want to be able to dance Viennese waltz.
Oh,
I love it. It's so
that's
pretty.
really sweet. Well, I have to tell you, I'm going to put this image full frame again because this is, to me, the ultimate in a double exposure here because it is just absolutely stunning. I mean, that this woman is on the left, silhouetted in the photo, not silhouetted, sort of there. It almost looks ghostly. And then her partner is standing there facing her, and the other dancer. Wow, I mean, you must be thrilled that you discovered this on this roll when you did it.
I did. I also did a print out, so I'm finding out all in darkroom as I print, and then I printed some other like non-double exposure image, but the magic of what I felt about ballroom dancing came through much more stronger when the image was double exposed, even by mistake.
Right. Well, that's the best thing of all is when things can be discovered even with us, I mean, I've made some of my best pictures by making mistakes, I mean, it happens. And, it's a great thing. So here's to mistakes.
Yes, the mistake.
Exactly. So, but, you did this one on purpose, obviously, and this is a beautiful photo. And this happens to actually be Rick Friedman's street, right?
It is. So it was actually during the time Rick led the Fuji camera photo walk tour in Boston, like maybe several years ago. Then I bought one of the camera from Fuji. Then they actually let you double expose images. And then you can actually decide, which was really, really cool. So this is his street, and he lives in one of the most beautiful streets in Boston, in my opinion. And it just works. And it was super fun.
Right. Well, Rick Friedman, for everybody, is Rick Friedman Photography is a legendary photojournalist, in my opinion, who's done so much work out there. He was a previous guest 2 weeks ago. It's just great that you guys are connected and you've worked with him. You've done substantial work with him. He took this portrait of you from what I remember. I don't have to remember. The credit is right there. And I love his use of lighting. And obviously you've probably both grown together, and you've probably also learned a lot from Rick as well,
I do. This is my visual tribute to Rick is the behind. So the swallow lighting thing around it is the same light that I use for the backlight. And
That's
then
right.
During your previous show, I saw Rick using the hairline light. So I wanted to do a little bit more to that. And then, this is what I love about working with Rick is that I may come up with something that he would he would put up more to the different levels, and we feed off each other well. And
right.
And then when I was shooting Monadnock Street, that was when I was just graduated from school. Then I was working for him as an assistant. He, it's really important that you stick to people who believe in you.
You know what? That is really important. And, let's just hear it from the horse's mouth. I mean, hey, Rick.
Good morning, Miss Keiko. Good morning, Stefan. And I'm not sure I'm used to being referred to as a horse.
Oh, well.
Listen, maybe I have a new profession.
Well, I'm wearing a shirt with a bowl. So
there you go. I just want to say, it's a pleasure working with Keiko. We push each other to be better photographers. We share a lot of ideas. And, a lot of the creativity that we come up with are joint ideas.
Right.
And then sometimes I just steal her ideas.
Well, I knew this wasn't going to be a full surprise, right? Keiko, Keiko knew I had something up my sleeve, even though I wasn't
sure I'd get up.
I'm so glad. Yes.
But, you two have such a great working relationship together that I had her on as a surprise guest for you, which really surprised you. And now I had to turn the tables a bit. But, talk to us for a minute, Rick, about, working with Keiko and her skills and everything else.
But it's, we've worked together for just a couple of years now. No, we've been together a really long time. And although she started out as my assistant, long ago, she ceased that role, and I refer to Keiko and I as shooting partners. And we have a lot of clients, and who, when they reach out, they'll call or they'll write, and they'll say, "Are either you or Keiko available?" Like, they don't really care which one of us they get,
Right.
but if it's one of us, they're going to get what they want. And I think we very much enjoy working together. We enjoy experimenting.
We do. This is from your test kitchen.
That's right. Our studio, as I said a couple of weeks ago, is the photographic test kitchen, and it's where we experiment.
Yeah.
And play around with light and cameras and try to figure out what we want to do and push the idea.
And something, and I heard that you guys travel light.
We do travel very light.
Yeah.
Not right now, obviously, during the pandemic. A lot lighter right now. In fact, no travel. But before, when you guys are traveling for example, to the UAE, talk about bringing all of this with you. Wow, you two are look at all this gear.
And then Karen's very much a part of it also. So it takes, with that much gear, it takes three of us to move it.
To check in. Three of us to check in.
The check-in process is really good. Oh, no, I don't have any excess baggage.
Right.
You're sitting there, you're weighing every case before you leave the studio to figure just how much is it going to cost to get it there.
Keiko, just a few security checks, I guess, huh?
Just a few. But I wanted to just, so this is for his workshop that he teaches lighting, and then this is how much we bring, because when you do the location, as I do most location, then I bring you study the location first, then you bring what you think you would need. But when you actually don't know the location, you wanted to bring everything you want to be prepared for. It's really fun, and come join us sometimes if you're after the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. After the pandemic, I would would not mind traveling to the UAE with you guys one day. That is, I've heard that photo exhibit there is absolutely tremendous.
They pick different print color paper for different exhibit.
Yeah.
Depending on the subject.
One of the beautiful things about working in a neighborhood like you've worked in, Keiko, and is getting to know people. And I know that you've become, very fond, of course, of working with Rick, and you guys have done so much together and everything. Here, we lost him for a second.
Yeah.
But part of the charm of Boston is all of the restaurants and the beautiful old school culture. All right, we'll catch Rick in a bit, but it was let me remove that for now. If I see him pop back in, we'll say goodbye. But anyway, the beauty of capturing somebody. Talk to us about getting to know like somebody like this that you've gotten to know very well.
So this is probably my very, very first photograph I've ever taken. I think probably taken in 2001 during my photo class at my undergrad. And I lived in north end of Boston, which is like a little Italy of Boston. And I used to keep seeing him at the cafes, and north end still have a cafe culture where you could go by yourself and meet people or learn about neighborhood. And I used to keep seeing him. Then we used to start saying kind of hello as we passed by. And one day, I think I was at the cafe, then he came over and said hello to me. And his name is Antonio.
Antonio.
Yeah, he's who I called my Sicilian Boston father. And I think the photographing him during the undergrad time is when I fell in love with black and white photograph.
Right. But, it's gone so beyond that. I mean, you two have become such good friends. I dug up these photos, and I have to tell you, they're so endearing. They captured my heart because my grandparents, I'm Italian and Jewish. My grandparents on my mother's side are Italian. And he reminds me so much of back in the days, when I used to go to the Italian festivals and everything.
Yeah.
And, look, I mean, your mom comes now and you've all gotten to know each other. Talk about the beauty of that relationship.
Every time I see Antonio, he always asks, how's your mother? How's your parent? How's your family? And, my parents come when I was would visit me in Boston when I was in school, then they'll meet all my friends in North End that I got to know, mainly through photography in the cafe and drinking an espresso. But I get to know him really well, and I am so happy to have him in my life as a friend.
No, it's a beautiful thing, and this photo here, just captured everything about the two of you knowing each other, and the neighborhood, and the nightlife, and the beauty of cross generations. I mean, you could see the beauty of him looking at you and playing his accordion. I'm sure he's a great accordion player, right?
He is, and he can sing. He can sing and he can play accordion. And just when he sang, I just melt. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Rick's seen, and that I'd love to get his input on, is Rick's seen your total evolution as a photographer. I mean, working in the studio with him, but also, and we're going to get on to your other bodies of work, and let Rick get on with his day. But Rick, talk about your thoughts about Keiko's skills as a photojournalist as well, besides just working in the studio.
Oh, she's phenomenal. She's absolutely unbelievable. You go to these big, crazy events, and it's like moving, and I swear sometimes she just kind of pops up at the right moment when it's all happening.
Yeah.
Or actually, I'll tell you one of my favorite stories of working with Keiko. When we were in UAE, and I had an exhibit, and the people who were putting it on came running up to Rick. His Excellency wants to come see your pictures, and I'm thinking, I need to go somewhere to get a picture of this. I mean, how often do you get me with the ruler, of a country? And Keiko's nowhere to be found. And as this gentleman is coming up, say hello to me, and I'm not really sure, do you bow, do you shake his hand? And I see this slight bit of commotion occurring slightly behind him with his security guard, and I watch as Keiko slides underneath their hands and pops up in front of me and the ruler to make the picture. And her timing to get to the right place at that right moment, not just be there for the overall event, but to figure out how to be in the right place at the right moment. And that is, a really important thing as a photojournalist. Yeah, we can all get there to cover the event. Once you're there, can you predict where the moment's going to be and figure out how to get yourself into that position to make that photograph? Keiko has perfected that.
Joseph Prezioso just put up a comment. Joseph is a fellow photographer from Boston. I met a couple of weeks ago by chance online. Joseph's watching. He says, Keiko is a sneaky shooter. You don't even know she's there half the time. Well, that's a huge part of being a photojournalist.
See, Rick, I've been practicing covering presidential campaign for that moment. So I can take a picture of you with the ruler with your picture.
Thank you, Keiko. I appreciate it. And I'm glad they didn't arrest you for doing it.
I know. It was close, but I just said, this is just for this one person. I'm not going to keep following him. So,
well, I
actually had to say to them, she's with me.
I know.
They were about to grab her for approaching the ruler.
This is really neat because, most of the security personnel for him is women, if you remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can hide a big gun under those gowns.
Okay, let's move on from that one. Okay, so Rick, thanks for coming on, buddy. We're going to get
absolutely great show to both of you. Thanks so much for having me. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
All right. So Keiko, we are going to move on, and we are going to put this body of work that you did working on a lot of protests and the Black Lives Matter movement and everything else. So tell us about, this was such a crazy and intense year, very sad in many ways, so much going on. Talk to us, reflect a bit on what's been going on and how you've been photographed. And we're going to roll through the photos as you reflect on a lot of these photos.
Sure. So I wanted to say first, the next three photographs to me was my 4 years. for my last 4 years. So this was taken, I have a cheat here, January 29th, 2017, right after President Trump became president. And this was at the immigration ban rally, which targeted mostly, I think all Muslim community, not all Muslim community, but all the country that was targeted was Muslim communities. And this is at the Copley Square in Boston. And it was, being international student and knowing people from all over the world. And, when you're students at school, like we all same and studying together, then you get to know them, then they're being targeted because where they're coming from was just insane to me personally. Then of course I cover as a photojournalist, so it was that's my personal reflection. And then how they framed that, this lady has this frame, and then how it's framed felt, they've been framed, and then we are all, so.
Right. No, it's a perfect portrait of somebody at a protest like that, with all of the feel and the goings on around her. Great picture. And, then of course everything starts to intersect, as we know. There's the immigration issues. There's all the stuff going on with this administration. And then we have the pandemic hit and so forth and so on. I mean, talk to us about how everything collides at once and how you began to document everything.
So this is during the pandemic. It's probably taken maybe April or May in Boston. Mm-hmm. So when pandemic hits, I'm a freelance photographer, then nobody's, like when everything lockdown happened, nobody's hiring us, mm-hmm. unless you're a staffer, because, it was also a lot of unknown that you don't want to spread the virus. You don't want to get caught. And so, I don't think nobody was hiring freelancer at all. But, mm-hmm. You, as a photographer, you want to capture that. And then my focus was I wanted to photograph residents of Boston. I wanted to photograph how we care for each other. Then this came from one of the, working with restaurant from the Off Their Plate program. This is a program from a woman named Natalie Gall of Boston. She started the program. She fundraised the money mm-hmm. to pay the restaurant, which 50% of the money has to go to hiring the workers. Mm. Then they would hire a restaurant to deliver the food to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then this is at the restaurants. Then this is one of the restaurant workers to the kitchen table. And, obviously the people who works in the healthcare, but right. also the people who are in the front line and need to work.
Right, of course. Well, that has been one of the biggest dilemmas in New York City. I just heard is going to be shutting down indoor dining again starting this week because there's surges going on around the country, as we know. Kevin Briggs says this image says more than 1,000 words. Well, thank you, Kevin, for chiming in. We appreciate you watching and your comment and looking at Keiko's work today. Thank you so much for being here. But, everything started, as we said, to intersect, and we're going to roll through an incredible body of work you put together here working on the Black Lives Matter. And wow, I mean, you really did incredible work on this. So go ahead, talk about it, Keiko.
So this is the photograph I took at the Nubian Square, which is, if you're from Boston, then left a while ago, that used to be Dudley Square, but now it's called the Nubian Square. Mm-hmm. It's at the beginning of the protest on the May 31st, mm-hmm. that we marched from Nubian Square to the State House.
Right.
And it was such an intense week. I think I photographed every day from May 29th through June 8th, every day Black Lives Matter. Right. And I'm sure it was in the New York and the entire country. It was a very, very tense, sad, angry week. Yeah. To cover for me. Yeah.
Sure. Well, the death of George Floyd and many others, at the hands of police and other things that have gone on has been an awakening for this country, and in many ways. But the moments that you captured are so significant. This photo, for instance, that you captured and created in a double exposure is really, really telling, with the people marching by, the flag in the middle, the sense of motion in the background, and yet the people are visible, and rest in peace, George Floyd's photo there. What made you capture an image like this? It really, really stands out to me.
So this is actually a reflection of the store window. Then the poster was taped onto it. So right. I waited the moment the American flag, upside down American flag would come by. Then the light was light. So right. I was able to capture that. It's just the massive movement, and may he rest in peace, and then the word from the Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It just really, I wanted to capture, like, it's not about, it's about who's marching too, but it's more than just who's marching. It's more right. Justice. Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. And then of course there's all of the protests that were going on, and the confrontations between police and protesters, and in many ways, the danger of being in the middle of a lot of this too. It's very intense. This is a time that is so different for photojournalists than any other in many ways, especially here, because you're dealing with a pandemic. You're dealing with this kind of tension all together, hitting the streets at once. It must have been really intense documenting all of this.
Yeah, it's actually happening in front of the police precinct in Boston, and right. The tension between this is at the earlier part of the protest. This is the first protest I ever taken, actually, May 29th this year. Mm-hmm. And Joseph Pressley also was actually shooting there together too. It was tense, and then we had people got tear gassed, and This is at the Boston Common. It's a stage dying protest for Mr. Floyd, mm-hmm. And it's really sad week. Yeah.
No, it was. Well, this, out of all the photos I went through in putting together the body of work that we're showing and that we talked about, this photo speaks volumes, and it wrenches your heart. It makes me, and I'm sure many others, want to get more involved and be much more vocal about everything. None of us can afford to sit by anymore in any way, shape, or form. There's too much going on in this country, and you captured the moments just incredibly here. So tell us about this moment here, Keiko.
So this is at the Franklin Park in Boston, and this is at one of the protests, obviously. And to me, one of the covering Black Lives Matter was very, very difficult for me and challenging for me personally, as well as being a member of the press. And her gaze, this little girl's gaze, if you've been to the protest, one of the calling is, why you here? This is usually addressed to the police. And then to me, she was asking me the same question to me, why you here? Mm. Then why am I here? What am I, I'm here because I'm taking picture, of course, but what am I trying to capture? Why am I here?
Right.
Then
right.
I feel like that's what she was asking me.
Yeah. And, there is so much in her eyes, that little girl's eyes, that you could just sit here and you could analyze it for hours. But the bottom line is you see so many different things in her eyes. I'm not going to read into her eyes, but you never do that, but you can see the emotion and the meaning and the intensity of the moment there, being at the protest with with everybody else she's there with. Estras, a Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist himself, who's been a guest on the Spin It Social Hour and a very dear friend, had a question right here because Estras has now moved to the Maryland, Virginia area. Estras asks, did you feel the police targeted photojournalists during these protests in Boston?
I don't think I felt that in Boston, at least. Not especially to the photojournalists. But they're not, they were not shy about protesters.
Right.
Yeah.
It was.
I didn't necessarily feel targeted.
Right. Okay. Well, that is the answer. So, but the amount of violence that was going on in a lot of these protests, and the conflict that went on, there's many photos that can capture that in different ways. But I pulled this photo because it really shows the overall just crazy moments that took place, and very scary moments that took place between the protesters and police. And, in many ways, I've seen many photos where there were units of I don't know who they were in certain cases, going around, and I know the protesters would have milk to clean their eyes out and water from the mace and other things. But a lot of the times things were being gathered and taken away. And then there were other times where we know for a fact that there were also people involved in these protests that, that were there doing things that shouldn't be done as well. It was an overall very, very intense situation. But this photo is really something. Talk about it, Keiko.
So this is actually happened minutes after the one of the first photographs we showed that as a woman protester facing to the police. Right. That happened the same scene, and then minutes after, I personally had no idea what prompted the police officer needing to go in. Right. I mean, I'm sure they had a reason, and then hopefully they had a reason. I wouldn't know that, but it's just happened so quickly, and.
So how are you? I've seen the photos of the photojournalists on the street during these conflicts. I have never seen, including Estras, by the way, in Washington, preparing themselves to go on the streets to take care of themselves in these situations. I mean, the gear that photographers were wearing this time around was unlike anything I've ever seen in protests in the United States.
I was pretty lightweight on that one. So I have a small backpack that I carry. Then I carry two cameras. One with a telephoto 7200. The other one is wide with, I usually do carry one flash, maybe sometimes in the backpack, and wide lens. It's on the camera. Right. And then I just have safety glass that I got from one of the shoot many years ago from the construction site. Then I have extremely flat noses that you could actually touch my eyes. And so the safety glass actually sealed my eyes pretty well. Then, we all wearing face masks during this pandemic anyway. So every time I see things get dicey, that they might do the tear gas or something like that, I just usually pour water onto my face mask. And that worked just fine for me. But I know many people do wear a lot more gears.
Right. Well, there's one photo I wanted to stop on here as we were rolling through some of these, is this one here, because you captured a moment here that is so significant. I wanted you to talk about it for a moment. I don't need to even point it out. I'm going to let you talk about it.
Sure. And did we show the picture of the yellow tear gas a few frames ago, or we didn't?
No, it's fine. As we're rolling through these, I can easily. Okay. I believe that is coming up. I believe.
Okay. So actually, I'm covering the protest and the movement as a journalist, sure. And so you capture what you see, and you're staying non-biased, or
of course,
try to stay objective in a way. But I'm a photographer, but I'm also a person, then being there makes you feel things and see things. It makes you think. Then the reason I brought up the tear gas is that you said it's coming up couple images afterward. That happens couple of minutes before this picture was taken.
Okay.
And you know.
Yes.
Yeah, there are a lot. Sorry, I just posted.
Fine. No, fine. Actually, you know what? It's my bad. As I was scrolling through it, how did
okay. No, that's okay.
I must have missed it in the edit. I'm so sorry, Keiko.
No, that's totally all right. And so I just wanted to point out, so, you know, those two young men who are Black Lives Matter protester were almost tear gassed or got tear gassed, and they still wanted to kneel down. They were happy that somebody else kneeled down with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then that's something that, you know, as a photojournalist, you capture what you see, but, you know, that's something you see. Then I think that if we have an opportunity to tell what we see or what we, you know, in order of that, you know, like there's a lot of, polarizing thing, and, you know, people say it's dividing. No, they're happy after they got tear gassed. They wanted to kneel down with them. I think people should know that.
Right. No, that is, you know, documenting the scene. You bring the information and the reality of some of the situations that, you know, people don't know if they weren't there. So that's one of the great things about having you talk about these photos and tell some of the behind the scenes stories.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We were right behind it. That's where we got gassed. And then, that's probably like 40 minutes after that kneeling picture in Chinatown.
Right. Well, the looting and the other destruction of property that went on in many cities. Obviously, no one condones that. The tensions are incredibly high, but none of that, as any of us would agree, solves anything. But I know, you know, you wanted to talk about some of this a bit. So, you know, why don't you go ahead and talk about some of these photos that I'm going to go through here.
So this happens after the night of protest on May 31st, I believe. This is all the night of the May 31st. And when I took those pictures, coming from Japan, you know, I had never seen anything like this in my life. I never thought of, you know, like massive people going to the store and, you know, looting.
Right.
And I didn't know how to process it myself, you know. I mean, like, I didn't know how to really process now where to put that in my head. And my initial reaction was to put the looting far away from the protest, saying, okay, they're not the same. Then they're not the same. Yet the roots of anger, you know, are the same.
Yes.
And then to separate them, you know, my first reaction to separate them completely together made me realize that as a person, as a friend, you know, that I am judging them how they should protest. I am proving one way of protest and disproving the other way of protest, where it may not be my place to do so. Right.
Well,
that makes sense.
No, it's a very, you know, coming from Japan and having been in the middle of documenting this, such a huge protest, and also the resulting violence from the conflict and other things that took place every day and every night in many cities, has been a challenge for many photographers. But you know, many of you, including yourself, have done an incredible job of documenting the scene and bringing the reality of the situation. Kevin says, exactly well said. The looting and the protest aren't the same, but the root is pain, anger, and frustration. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. That is one of the great things about being able to bring the engagement on during this broadcast. and also have opinions and comments from our viewers and other journalists, photojournalists, and the public at large here. So we are then, at a point also of all of everything else intersecting as well. You have a movement also that was very evident dealing with trans Black lives and also families and everything else. You really captured it all as you were working in Boston.
I mean, I hope that, I'm photojournalist. I shouldn't say I hope, I guess, but I do hope as a person that we came together and hope to stay together to fight injustice.
Of course. That is not just something. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. That is not something that only a photojournalist, doesn't have to say. We all hope that we can all resolve this together, and that we can fix so many things in this country that are broken. Claudia Paul says, "Thank you, Keiko, for being out there and capturing the truth without judgment."
I mean, it was hard because especially when my close friends said, I wanted to talk about the looting, then I was like, but then I kept saying but I know it's not the same as protest. Mm-hmm. And at the end, she listened to me, then she said, "Keiko, why are you being so naive? Why are you so surprised? Mm-hmm. Then why are you saying that? Who are you to say how people act?"
Right.
And, it was a very sobering moment for me.
Yeah, and then, like I said, you bring in the whole other part of the equation. Not the whole other part. It's there. The murders that have gone on, and the violence and the abuse and everything else towards the trans community, and bringing that in with Black trans lives matters and everything else. This photo, another one of those photos that will stand out in your body of work, in my opinion, that, you got as close as you needed to be here to capture the beauty of that moment and the sadness in that moment, not just the beauty, but the sadness there. Talk to us about this frame, please.
So I think this was taken in front of the State House at one of the protests in June. Mm-hmm. She's one of the healers who marched with us, or with the protester, to that. And then, the Black woman,
right?
The Biden-Harris victory, Black women, they always speak up. Yeah, oftentimes they weren't heard. Mm-hmm. And that's where the tears and, but they keep fighting for everybody.
Right.
They really do. They keep fighting for not just the Black women, but Black men, boys, and oftentimes, justice for all, because I think they fight because they know what it's like to be in that position.
They are, just pillars of the community, and all the work that, man, I have to tell you, what's gone on this year, we can only hope that all of the work that has been done by so many photojournalists such as yourself and many other people working to make sure that we get past these moments and the racial division and the hurt in this country has been captured magnificently and deeply by you guys out there. We're going to move on now right here to another body of work. But before that, we're just going to take a quick little moment here to recognize a couple of sponsors. And my two sponsors, one is now the StreamYard that I stream this live stream on. So it is really with pleasure that I do this live stream every week with StreamYard, and I wanted to insect it here because it brings the whole world together by being able to allow these photojournalists to tell their story and engage with the public at large from Facebook, from Twitter, from LinkedIn, and YouTube. So, Keiko, you've also traveled a lot, and you've gone from the United States here to Africa, and we're going to talk about certain sections here of bodies of work projects that you've worked on. Why don't we start with Liberia? So,
Liberia is I would like to say, my home country on African continent.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a Liberian name.
Mm-hmm.
Liberia has it's mainly, they have different tribes, but the Bassa people are the main tribes of Africa. Mm-hmm. And my Liberian name it's in Bassa, then it means Mapu is my Liberian name. That means light skin. So wow. It's sometimes harder to remember the name Keiko. It's foreign, which I don't mind if people had a hard time remembering that. So they call me Mapu as light skin. So that's my Liberian name. I've been going to Liberia for a couple of times a year, every year, before the pandemic, mm-hmm. since 2014. Mm-hmm. And then I mainly work with a clean water advocate group called the Face Africa. And so I work with building pump well. It's the main thing we do. But this is actually some of my personal work from Liberia.
Right.
First time I went to Liberia was there are a lot of things that shocked me. One of the biggest things as a photographer is lack of electricity, what they call current.
Right.
And how do you capture that? Like if it's like light is everything for us, right? Photographer, it's light. Right. And then we have none. I think that at that time, maybe a couple of years ago, 0.6% of people in Monrovia, which is capital, has access to electricity, and then not much at all in rural area. It's just the infrastructure is just not there in rural area. And so that was capturing that no electricity.
Well, the photos are fantastic, and the job you did on this project on current, as they would call it, in Liberia, really do tell the story. I don't think any of us, having dealt with just blackouts and everything, living, without normal use of electricity. We take so much for granted in so many ways that this is what the importance of photojournalists such as yourselves taking on even projects. As you said, this was a personal project of yours to go somewhere like Liberia and document this for the world to see, to be able to expose everybody to the reality of the situation such as this.
Yeah, so when I'm in Liberia, I'm usually working with non-profit like Face Africa, but I love to, as you could see from Monadnock Street and others, I love to seek out my own experience through photography. Then this is my experience capturing through photography for me. And, I wanted to also point out that if you're wealthy in Liberia, you would own generator. And that would also, widen the gap of the economy, because if you could own it, you could have generator, then you could have a store. But if you like, the setup cost of starting something new would become extremely higher for people who are in the lower income area or lower income. So that's another injustice.
I think that's very, very important to point out, and I'm glad that you brought that into the picture, so to speak. Pardon the pun. But then there's also the issue of dealing with a safe house that you worked with and an organization that you worked with, protecting others there. Why don't you talk about that, Keiko?
So this is a Think Safe House for women and young women. And I started working with them during the Ebola pandemic. I worked with the platform called the African Response. This is organized by the African diaspora to combat the Ebola epidemic in West Africa. And then our goal was to capture the local heroes, unsung local hero, what we call. And, during the epidemic a lot of things was covered in Liberia, but most of the scenario tend to be this Western non-doctor or non-Liberian people would come and do this wonderful work to combat this horrible diseases. And, there are people who came, but there are a lot of the time the people on the ground was working along with them. Then it was never mentioned who they were. Then Think is one of the organizations that works with like big organization you know the names of. They were the implementing partner. So the money you donate to the big name organization would go to Think, and they would actually do the work. And that was and then, I had a waiver to photograph the safe house, but I just felt that it was in I'm only here for a month, a year.
Right.
And what do I know about those girls' lives? And I just, then, I just felt more responsible to show it this way. So that's how I edit it, is that you can't really see them, but
of course.
Yeah, in a way. And then the first picture, if you could go back there.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Yep.
So most of the women, actually, I would just say most, but all of the girls that I met here are illiterate. She can't read. And I remember that they don't have many books, because this is supposed to be temporary houses. That before they go to their relatives' house, they were rescued from police, they're rescued from the environment they were in before. So it's a temporary house, so they don't have many books. Then many girls had never gone to school.
Right.
And they were looking at those Bibles. She was looking at the Bible, so I was like, so what are you reading? That's sort of without thinking, my initial reaction. Then she kind of looked at me, then she smiled. So then I realized that I wasn't sure if she could actually read. So, can you read? Then she kind of said, mm-mm. She just wanted to look at the letters. Yeah.
Well, the work that these organizations do, such as Think Liberia and Face Africa, which will also be showing some of the work that you've done on other projects in Africa, to touch on them. Working with the thing that is great about you is that you go somewhere, of course, and many photojournalists do this, but you did it in particular too, is you go somewhere with an NGO, you work with these organizations, but you also worked on your own projects at the same time.
I do.
Right. Edward says, actually, can we go back to Estras's comment? Estras paid you such a huge compliment that we have to read it. Estras, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer, as I mentioned, Estras says, this is reminiscing of the work of the legendary photographer Dominic Chavez. Great stuff. And Estras knows what he's talking about.
He does. Thank you, Estras. And yeah.
And Edward says, isn't it amazing the way we not only feel what is going on in the minds of the subjects when the image is exposed, but what is going on in the mind of the photographer, emotion and thought. This is, to me, one of the holy grails of documentary photography, to take the viewer on on your journey, and to see through your eyes and to feel, I got cut off there, sorry. Anyway. Edward, sorry. Okay, we'll finish this here. Your eyes and to feel, your heart and mind. Well done, Keiko. So much sadness and beauty at the same time, and hope. Thank you, Jonathan, for putting that back on. Darlene says, I'm blown away, Keiko. The humanity in all of your work is striking. Your kindness and passion come through. Some beautiful words from everybody. So let us move to some of the other work here. You worked on the Safe House project. And the current project, the beauty of the Safe House project is being able to do this in such a way, of course, as to continue to always protect the identity of the subjects that you're photographing, and you did it perfectly.
So I trust the organization that I work with, obviously, but I do give pictures to all the other pictures that I saw. This is our, Stefan obviously helped me edit it, but this is my edit of the stories. Right.
And I said the beauty, I meant the importance. Excuse me, I caught myself in my own mind here. I meant the importance of capturing the subject is to, of course, protect the subject matters, the subjects at hand. So you've done a wonderful job here on this project that you worked on. And yes, we both worked very, very hard on putting this together for everybody today. Then, of course, you worked on a really, really important and very telling project, beyond important, dealing with this Ebola survivors. Talk to us about that, Keiko.
So this is the same assignment that I was on the African response during the epidemic. And I worked with the organization locally led by the Liberian woman, AfroMed, and they're working to setting up the Ebola Survivors Club, because many people who lived who survived Ebola felt discrimination against that. Nobody wanted to talk to them. Sometimes one of the women that I photographed, her husband left after she came back from the special unit of Ebola, and they needed. So the organization set up the supporting group. This is in the supporting group of the Fremont town, like 40 minutes away from the capital. So we worked on to making a portrait of who they are and testimonial of their experience.
Well, I think, that is one of the things that really, really comes through in these photos that you talk about is you can feel some of and I'm not going to read into their eyes, but you can feel some of the hurt and the situation of having survived something as horrible and horrifying as Ebola and other things, and being discriminated upon and looked down upon, and other things that can go on in a community, such as what you've been documenting. Incredible portrait here.
Thank you. And then, this is, I might just being really naive on the world in general, but whenever I try to do the stories or, any assignment, I kind of always unintentionally maybe looking for hopeful ending. Like, I always wanted to at least say there's a hope there, kind of. That's sort of the note I just gravitate towards. Sure. But, working those stories.
Sure. No,
They're struggling. Like what I see is struggle, and it's heartbreaking, but they have to go through.
Yes. I'm just going to let the photos speak for themselves here. And I mean, the project itself, in the long run, has it been published anywhere?
They were in the I was a guest speaking about this project on the Public Radio International, and worked with Mark Wayman on that, and I get to speak with who I work with and stuff like that. That was wonderful.
So we're going to move on to another topic here, another subject, which was dealing with pride and the LGBTQ community in Uganda. These pictures are really something, and I know that you became very close to the community there, so I'm going to let you talk about that now.
So this is actually my self-funded project that I actually went to Uganda to participate, I guess, in a way that to do a Pride in 2014.
Right. So
just to give you a background, so I have a tissue here. There was Anti-Homosexuality Act was passed in April of 2014, and you could be prosecuted for being homosexual for up to life imprisonment. And the bill also included that anybody who aids or assists individual, like homosexual individual, can also get prosecuted. Mm-hmm. So when the bill was passed off, when the bill floated around the parliament, Uganda parliament, and passed, Western media mainly called the bill as a Kill the Gays bill. That's what they were called. Mm-hmm. And that passed in April 2014. And it actually got invalidated by the highest court in Uganda in August, not because on the moral basis, but because it wasn't passed with enough required quorum. That's why it got invalidated. But anyway, so it did get invalidated. Then this is their third annual Pride Parade in Uganda. It happened by the beautiful Lake of Victoria. I actually had never seen Lake Victoria, so that was really cool. And people go to Pride in the world in different cities, so I decided to go to Pride in Uganda.
Right. Well, we know.
Celebrate it.
I know for a fact, having researched this, that, in 2004, a group of 40 men who, because of their sexual preferences, were denied healthcare, jobs, and protection, they held a meeting, and Spectrum Uganda Initiatives was founded this way.
Yeah.
So great, thankful work on their part, doing this. And, I love, these portraits are fantastic and, really tell such a story of the community there, coming out and being so brave, to live their life and to be able to, be photographed by someone. The comfort level and the relationship that you develop with people is so incredibly special. I know that the gentleman on the left, why don't you talk about him? I know he's a friend of yours.
Right. So that became my friend through photographing Pride.
Right.
This is my self-funded project. So I contacted Spectrum Uganda before I go to the Pride parade and saying, I'm a photographer and I wanted to come, I'm inspired by your organization. So he came to pick me up at the airport when I went. And we went together to the Pride, and he actually took me to his hometown in rural Uganda, it's like a couple hours of bus ride from Kampala, the capital. And he comes to New York Pride almost every year as usually like a speakers and stuff like that. Not this year. So I get to usually see him in New York every time he comes to Pride, which is much easier for me to go down Uganda.
Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it. But, once again, wonderful work, very important work incredibly important work capturing the Pride community in Uganda. We're going to move here to back to the States, and a body of work that you did on the LGBTQ community, and a specific nightclub in Boston that you became a big fan of and really, really got to know the community there very well. The Cabaret Jacques, or the Jacques Cabaret. And I'm going to go through some of these and just let you talk about your experience in working on this project.
Sure. So I first my friend Valerie took me to Jack's Cabaret one night. It may not even be weekend night, many years ago. And then I just really love drag queen. I just fell in love with them. I haven't really been to drag queens club before. I've seen drag queens before, but I feel like everybody have desire to transform. Like for me, like, personal, it's like the transform more beautiful, more confident, more cooler, and then I just love how they transform the stage and themselves and fierceness. And this is the queen on the left is Sephora Crystal, and this is her home in JP. And this is actually the right side of the print is taken by my good friend Danielle Rascon. She's a Miami-based photographer, and that's her print of Sephora.
Okay. It's a beautiful image. It's a beautiful image, and it's so telling. You could stare at this image, for a while. Just the feeling in it is you captured magnificently.
And for me personally too, this is Sephora taking the makeup off, and then I love the transformation to the drag queen too, but also like I love when they're coming back to their selves. Right. I love that. This is Destiny Boston. She's my beautiful Destiny Boston. I don't know if I could say my Destiny, but I feel like she's my Destiny Boston.
You can say that. I know you two have gotten to know each other very well. So
right, yes, she does. If you're in Boston area and if you need to get a nice haircut or nice coloring, she's a hairstylist at the Joseph Joseph James Salon Newberry. She's amazing hairstylist too.
Okay, there's a shout out. Let's make sure we give Destiny the shout out that she deserves for her beautiful work on beauty and fashion, beauty and hair and styling. And the behind the scenes work, that the intimate photos that you've been able to capture, the moments that you only, once again, in all this body of work that you've been showing, all the different projects, by being part of the community, by being there and spending hours with them and everything, you become part of the scene. And that is what allows you to capture these moments that, many can never capture. So, I'm just going to go through these as we see them. The amount of preparation, I think, is one thing that people have no idea what goes into putting on a cabaret show like this in the drag community.
I feel like, I photographed drag queens at Jack's for many, many years. And I think that, of course, I was attracted to them, visually. And, but I just feel like I just love them so much. I just keep going. I just fell in love with them as a performers and, their shows. And, I use lots of one flash, sometimes off camera. And I felt like I was creating my own production in a way. So I don't ask them to pose, but they sometimes just pose themselves. And this is Katya. She has become a superstar of drag queen world. And I just love them so much. I just keep going. I feel like.
Well, you've captured some beautiful moments of relationships, of their performances, of their life behind the scenes, the transformation that takes place every night for these shows that they put on in the cabaret, and the portraits are just gorgeous and beautiful work. And wow, this one has so much color, such beauty to it. It's amazing. I
think this is for her President's Day performance.
yeah. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And of
course,
this
is Miss Chris's ring. I love her ring. I got so many comments. I want that ring too. I need that ring from my peers.
I love that ring myself. That's a great ring.
I need that.
But here is Destiny behind the scenes here with another entertainer getting ready for the show. I love the mix of black and white and color, and of course performing on stage and everything. You really immersed yourself in the community with the drag community and the cabaret there to capture these. This is one of my favorites. The color and the beauty of them getting prepared for a show, even if it's another cabaret and not Jack's, I know is a real moment here, just perfectly lit and well captured.
Yeah, so I started photographing this drag queen on the right, and then I just find for her, the drag queen performer that I photographed was I had so much love for them, then I have so much admiration and that, but for her, I felt like I saw myself in her. Even being on the show like this makes me super nervous, but I want to do it, and this is not before the show, this is during the show, but her desire, then I just saw myself in her.
Right.
I hope to continue to do some more.
Well, I've always said photographing subjects at large, especially working on projects, we all tend to see something about ourselves or learn something about ourselves as we document many things in life. I've always been, I've always thought about that. What did Kevin? Kevin says, I met Keiko in the darkroom labs of NESOP when she was working on a lot of the photographs in this series. It was then I saw her talent and eye for imagery, especially for her black and white world.
Hi, Kevin. So we used to print at NESAP, New England School of Photography. All the black and white prints, I printed at my school.
Well, the color, the black and white, the mix, beautiful, beautiful mix of work. Briefly talk about, as we go through the last two the last two projects that we're going to show a bit of that you worked on, so that we bring it all full circle, is a little not a little, but a project you worked on the 12 tribes.
Yes. So 12 tribes was I would call it extreme, in a way, the Christian community. It started in Chattanooga, Tennessee in like 70s or 60s. And then it's a Christian community, but people living together as a house in community. Then in order to join them, you have to give up all your possession and live in the house and be part of that. You work what is assigned to you, and you live together in the community. And I learned about this because one of my old housemates was an anthropology major at the Wellesley College. So she was doing the paper on them. Then I always was interested in the idea of faith, but people, the faith of all kinds in a way.
Hey, sure.
But, So they opened up the dinner on Saturday night for Sabbath. So I started going there. Then I ended up staying 1 week with camera. I asked them if I could do so. Then they said yes. But one of the striking things that I feel like personally that through this photograph tells my feeling when I was there the most time, I felt so alone, even though I was so surrounded by many people. And also there are lots of children, because what they're doing as a community is that they're preparing for the doomsday. They know that to be saved, I think they have to produce like many number of virgin men. So they're in producing those offsprings is what they are. But you don't see any toys or children book. And I was told that such things to be distraction from their face. And it was just, growing up in Japan with lots of children book and stories and, imaginations, and that was just horrifying to me.
Right. No, well, it really is a very emotional thing to be around different groups, and that is one of the things that, of course, as a photojournalist, that we always separate ourselves from. It's one of the things to go and document the subject matter at hand, and to be able to do so with a group like this is very intense. No matter what anybody says, It's very intense. So, and then we want to conclude today with something. I wanted to bring you back home because of the importance of this that you worked on. And I'm going to let you talk about going back to Tokyo and working on what I will pronounce, hopefully correctly one more time, is hibakusha, correct?
Good job. Hibakusha.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Oh, well, you trained me well. So talk to us about hibakusha as I show these portraits, and that will bring us full circle, in my opinion, in your journey here and the body of work that we've shown today.
So these are the portraits I made in Nagasaki and Hiroshima of atomic bomb survivors of Japan. And I did the portrait of them, of their place of they wanted to be photographed at. And then I wrote the testimonial of their experience of living as A-bomb survivors. And this is part of the war memory education in Japan that I'm very used to growing up with. But I always find that in anything outside of Japan, you don't know those stories from those people. No. And I wanted to. I always felt the world need to hear their stories. And then I go back to Japan usually once a year or so. So I wanted to do it. This is, I feel like, as a Japanese, I feel like I need to do this. So that was my project.
Well, one of the things, and we're very thankful that you've done it. One of the things that I wanted to point out that I realized is that with this series of portraits that I'm showing here, and I'm going to go bring it full frame again, is you actually wrote, and I want people to go to your website and follow. Please make sure you follow Keiko on Instagram at Keiko Hiromi, and also at her website. keikohiromi.com, and go to the part that on her website about hibakusha and read, because you also wrote the stories around this.
I did. So for example, he was 2 years old when the bomb went up, and
Right.
so he doesn't remember it, but he felt like everything, he's defined by what he cannot remember for entire life, by physically and emotionally, and then he's actually became an activist to help other people to come to terms with it. But yeah, there are lots of stories. Please do, I feel shy to say please visit my website, but please do read their stories.
Please do visit. Please visit Keiko's website and read the stories, because she really did a great amount of storytelling here, and going back home to continue to tell the stories of the survivors from that horrible period in our history and Japan's history. So please go on, Keiko.
Yeah, and then so the war memory is something that the point of these people telling the story is so that nobody experiences it. It's not to blame anybody,
right?
But you just don't want to, like the first picture of the Hiroshima Peace Park, the flame is going to be continued to let till all the nuclear weapon would have disappeared from the planet. So the idea is that you wouldn't have to. They're telling the stories because so nobody would have to go through the story. Is
right.
The idea. So.
Well, that is significant. Of the utmost significance is to be able to talk and always educate, and not just to lay blame, but to educate, so that history has more than just the records that have been told in the books, but true life survivor stories. So therefore, as we well know, there's many books that have circulated in education that don't always necessarily tell the whole story.
Right.
So, but I have this photo, I kept getting attracted to it all week long. And I guess he's he has such a beautiful face, such a well done portrait. Talk to us about where he's standing here, actually.
So he was also a baby when the bomb hit it, and then he's standing in front of the opening of air shelter, which is now sealed. Then inside the little hole, he was there. His mother went to so this is in Nagasaki. The Nagasaki bomb went off in the morning, so his mother put the baby, him into the air shelter. Then he went to get something, and while he was inside by himself, bomb hit it. Then now it's sealed. So.
Well, it's a really, really important portrait. Wow. We have to read this from Maya Barsky here. Keiko Hiromi, I can't say enough about your work. Having known you for so many years and experienced your journey to becoming such an amazing photojournalist brings such pride and joy to my heart. It's an honor to call you a friend, and I will be sharing your amazing work with everyone I know. Will the stream be available as a recording to share more broadly after the broadcast comes to an end? Absolutely.
Yes.
The stream itself and this wonderful time we've spent with Keiko, what an incredible time it's been, is available on YouTube at the Spin It Social Hour. I'm not plugging it here. I'm just making a factual statement. It's at the Spin It Social Hour on YouTube because we're talking about a very important topic here. I would never do that. The other thing is that it is also going to live on Facebook. It's also on Twitter and LinkedIn. So yes, please. Feel free to share it so that everybody gets to know about the incredible journey of Keiko Hiromi and her work. And of course, we're going to, and Hibakusha here, and please go to her website and learn about these stories of these survivors. Yeah. It's tremendously important. And I want to close out, Keiko, with honoring your parents because they brought you into this world and brought us a great photojournalist who's done great work and a wonderful human being as well. So I wanted to honor them by showing their photo here.
Thank you. And I'm very fortunate that I still have my parents around. Then I'm more fortunate that I have a good relationship with them. And yeah.
Well,
And
you
yeah.
see the smiles on their faces. I couldn't wait to show this photo at the end because absolutely you could tell two of the most beautiful people. I hope I get to meet them one day.
Please come visit after pandemic.
I will. And let me tell you, our son so wants to go to Japan.
Good.
Side note here, he's just a big fan of ramen, and he wants to go to Japan and have the real thing.
That's good.
So anyway, but I have to tell you and experience the culture, of course, too. But he's 14 years old, so he's stuck on food. Hopefully eating me out of house and home soon. But as he grows. But your parents look beautiful. I wanted to say hello to both of them and honor them by showing their photo. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, Keiko.
Thank you so much for having me.
I went through it all because you deserve it all, and I hope that you get more work. And we have another comment here, Keiko, you have documented so many strong projects. Seeing all of these bodies of work made me realize not only what an amazing photojournalist you are, but also an incredible human being who genuinely care about our society. Thanks for sharing and looking forward to seeing more of your beautiful work in the future. Wow. That is the note we will close on, but we will close on Keiko having the last word as should be. And I'll let you have the last word here, Keiko.
So I feel like that this picture ends perfectly in a way that going to 2021, we had a very, very tough year, 2020. And, I'm grateful that I have a place I can call home, but I also do wish that, pandemic made many people vulnerable more than usual. Then it's more than financial, then I hope that these are my family, but I hope that the financial family would expand more, including more than bloodline, that who we can call community, become family, and we can care for each other.
Right. No, absolutely. Thank you for those last words. And Keiko, I'm going to wrap it up here now, but please stay on. I just want to have a word with you afterwards.
Sure.
But thank you for being on and sharing your journey and your work and your life and everything you've done with everybody. I hope I did you justice today.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Be right back. Okay. So I wanted to bring Jonathan on real quick, and I wanted to tell everybody that this could not be done without my co-producer here. If he thought I was going to forget him, no way. Jonathan, you've been a dear friend, a great co-producer in helping me with all of the behind-the-scenes work and many other things. It takes a village, and you are part of my village. Tell everybody about yourself, Jonathan.
When does your son graduate from ramen to sushi?
He likes them both, actually, so no problem there. No problem there. Has a very sophisticated palate. So, Jonathan, tell everybody a quick note about yourself.
I am a full-time flaneur, a sometime tech, part-time writer, and I am always here behind the scenes. I'll see you. You are,
and driving the car behind the scenes for us. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm going to do the last sponsor here and a goodbye and a guest for our guest next time. So I'll be right back. All right. Thank you, Jonathan. So, folks, one of the other sponsors of my show is Emilio Pardo, a visionary brand strategist that I work with. And we have an incredible show that we're producing called Real Talk Live from the Barn, dealing with all issues surrounding the COVID situation and work and many other things. Here's a quick look at our next show. Our next show is on Thursday coming up, December 17th at 6 p.m., 3 p.m. Pacific time, with an incredible guest, Michael Margolis, CEO of Get Storied and advisor to Facebook, Dolby, and NASA. We are going to talk about telling your story in turbulent times. This is going to be a winner of a show. Please tune in for this new show brought to us by Emilio Pardo. Like I said, a visionary brand strategist. Find him at Pardo Vision on Twitter. And it is a pleasure and an honor to produce this show with Emilio. So I look forward to doing that this week. Here's a quick look at the intro.
Hi there. Welcome to Real Talk Live at the Barn.
Real Talk live from the barn this Thursday. Please join us, and it will be a great show this week. Finally, I want to tell everybody that I am going to be on a show this week on Wednesday that I can't wait to be on. StreamYard Connect, Wednesday at 2 p.m. this Wednesday. Please find the hashtag StreamYard Connect. Facebook.com/StreamYard app, of course, is the Facebook page. StreamYard is an incredible community, and I am thrilled to be on this show with a master of live streaming, a broadcast legend in his own right, live streaming and radio in the past, Ross Brand. Ross is really one of the greats out there. And not only that, he is an incredible, incredible human being and guy. I love him, and I can't wait to be on the show to talk about my journey as a photojournalist, as now a live streamer and social media strategist. It's going to be a great talk about visuals and how to do many things better visually on his show as I continue on this journey as a social media strategist and now a live stream producer. It's just a wonderful journey it is. And I'm going to tell you about the NYT Read-Along with my dear colleague Sri Srinivasan, who I work with on many, many projects. We've worked on the Pulitzer Prizes together. We've worked on many, many projects, workshops, and Sri leads the DigiMentors group, and he does the NYT Read-Along every Sunday, and his guest this week is Nancy Newhouse, former travel editor and living style editor at the New York Times. So please join the NYT Read-Along Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You'll love it. It's one of the best shows on the air. And finally, we're going to say goodbye and acknowledge she's on call during this time of COVID. You want to watch Dr. Sujana, you want to watch Dr. Marina, and she's on call, and learn everything COVID related that's in the news every week, and also many other health and lifestyle issues. Two wonderful doctors talking about this every Sunday at 11 a.m. Folks, and next week, I have to tell you, I am thrilled to bring on Terry Abramson. I am so sorry, not next week. We are taking next week off. It has been so busy, and I'm taking a week off. Jonathan and I are taking a week off. And on December 26th, my guest is Terry Abramson from Chicago, author, photographer of the book, In the Belly of the Blues. And I can hardly wait to have Terry on. In the Belly of the Blues, folks, Terry Abramson, he's going to be right here. Grammy Award winner, has worked with the likes of, not just the likes of, the incredible Muddy Waters, and has captured so much in this book, In the Belly of the Blues. I met him in Chicago, and I can't wait to bring him on. So till the next time, until I see you for Terry Abramson on December 26th, have a wonderful holiday week. Please be safe. Be careful. Goodbye, and have a great weekend, folks. Take care.